Hey, welcome back. So today we're going to check out something actually it's really different from what I've ever done. These are tattoo machines. These particular ones I picked up off eBay. They were relatively inexpensive. I think they were under $20 for the set for two of them, and the shipping was free, I believe, on these ones. So either way, that's still not too bad. I mean, you can find them on Amazon for $15 each. Which I would recommend over eBay just because of the PayPal payment things. I don't like those, but gotta go where you gotta go, get the best deal, right? So these are, they call them Dragonfly Rotary machines, but they're actually not. I do not believe they're true Dragonfly. I think they're a Dragonfly knockoff. And the reason I say that is that the Dragonflies usually have the adjustment screw barrel is marked with the company logo and whatnot, and these ones are not. Nowhere on here does it say it's a Dragonfly, but the advertising in some of the descriptions and Amazon and most of the titles on eBay call them Dragonfly machines. I'm not positive they're a knockoff, but I do highly suspect it. Either way, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difficulty or difference between the brand name model and a knockoff. I mean, it's pretty simple technology. The biggest deal would probably be the quality of the components and manufacturing, but again, there's not a whole lot going on here. There's not tons of moving parts, so pretty close to be a brand name, I'm sure. So this one I picked up off Amazon. It was $15.71 on Prime, and it was shipped free, obviously. It didn't take that long to get here. I like it. I played with it a bit. It's definitely a lot quieter than some of the coil machines. And keep in mind, these are all cheap machines. These are just for playing around and stuff like that. I'm not a professional tattoo artist by any means, but dabbling stuff. I'm not going to go out and spend $700, $1,000 on a machine that I'm just tinkering around with, right? If I get into it more, then maybe yeah. But for as it sits right now, this is fine. I mean, look at Jailhouse Tats and that. They do some amazing work with a pen and a motor out of a DVD or tape player, right? So, Granddad always used to tell me it's a poor carpenter who blames his tools. And I think that holds true for a lot of stuff. So, let's check these out. These are the ones off of eBay. I got two, like I said, for basically the price of one. That's the first one. And this one is the second one. They're pretty much identical. I mean, some places will tell you lining and shading and whatnot. That is true in a lot of stuff, but I mean, for some of these, especially with the rotary machines, it's not as true as with the coil machines. There's a big difference in a shading and a liner tattoo gun, and with the rotary ones, the differences are more subtle. So, one thing I do notice about these right off the bat is in here there's a spring that brings the needle back up, or the guide for the needle back up when it's at keeps the tension on it, so to speak. When you put your barrel in, if you put it in any farther than the top lip, I don't know if you can be able to see that very clearly, but any further than the top lip, it actually hits the spring, so you can't push it up anymore without damaging it. So if you do get one of these and you're putting your barrel and stuff in, keep in mind, don't try and jam it up too far, because you will hit that spring and likely bend it or break it out of place. So that's one of the first things I noticed with these. These are your adjustments for your needle depth and whatnot, and it controls here. The power plug-ins, obviously. I always like to look on the back of the machines, and you see there's a red wire and a black wire. I try and always match it up the same way when I put the clips on. Not a lot of people do that, as I understand, but I do it. So that's one of them. They're not too loud. That's one of the things I really liked about these rotary machines, is that they're a lot quieter than the coil versions. Less vibrations as well. You get a deeper or a more solid hit with the rotary machines, so you do have to take that into account when you're working with them. Is the hit is a lot harder on a rotary than a coil machine, and that's understandable when you look at the way they're set up. I mean, the coil machines, you have the bar and it's pushed up and down by a spring pushing it back into place and the magnetic coil bringing it down, right? The magnet pulling it down. So if you take that into account, the gravity and whatnot that is moving the needle is going to be a lot softer because the resistance is going to affect that more than it will affect the piston here. What I call the piston, the connecting rod that powers the needle here. It's solid, so because it's on a motor, it's going to be consistent and it's going to hit a lot harder than this coil machine, because the coil machine, when the needle goes in, the resistance can greatly affect this because it's not a moving part per se, it's a magnetic field, right? So the magnetic field is easier to move if you pull two magnets apart, and you can feel as the further it gets away, the less it pulls towards each other. So it's the same kind of a deal here. The magnetic field can be adjusted or messed with more by the needle going into the skin on a coil machine, as where you don't have that issue on here because it's a rod and it's going to hit, and when it hits, it's going to be the same hit all the time. So that's one difference between them. An important one, actually. As you can see, it's a lot quieter with than a coil machine, which I really like if you're using it. The vibration is a lot less too, as where with your standard coil machines, they are different again. So with the coil machines, I always put the positive to the post on it, and I put the negative to the chassis. So just like that. But as you can see, very, very different. And even when you get the vibrations. So those are a couple of the differences. This is the black model. It's identical to the other one. You have a little listen to that one as well. The one thing that's nice about these is, even though they're knockoffs, you can still go online and get the book of the words. So you can get the Dragonfly manual for these, and it is identical to what you have here. So if you want to know troubleshooting or how to set it up and whatnot, and most of these knockoff machines don't come with any literature at all, you can go online, get the PDF for the Dragonfly rotary machine, and it's going to be the same as these. So that's nice. Don't try and warranty them through it, right? But this one, a little more vibration. They're pulling away because the cord was hanging down, but it's still a lot quieter than the other ones, and I like them better, to be honest. What else can I tell you about them? Easily adjustable. Adjust your depth of the needle here, how far you want it to put down. So basically, kind of like the rubber band on the coil machines, but you do it with the set screw in that here, so it holds the needle down in place, and you can adjust whether you want it pushing really hard, which you don't want because it'll bring the needle up on the other side, but it's easily adjustable. Like I said, this one adjusts, fine tunes. I wouldn't say really adjusts. It adjusts a little bit the needle travel. So if you need to do that in a session, it's easier to do with the adjustment than it is to take the barrel and try and adjust it that way. Okay, for some specifications on these things, see, they're pretty much the same as I said, but they work with a 0 to 14 volt power supply, so your standard tattoo gun set power supply. 14 volt max, of course. They have the clip connections on them. They're the 1.6 millimeter ends. They range around 0 to 11,000 RPM for stitches, a minimum of about 130 a second, 0 to 130 a second. The max tube that you can put into them are the 8 millimeter, and that's something to really watch, especially if you're buying parts and that online, because I mean, you can get kits that have all the different needles and that in, and I picked this one off of Amazon. It's really good. I love this. But some of the barrels and that are slightly different in aftermarket grips and whatnot, and it can be frustrating because their difference is so minuscule that it looks like it'll just fit, but it won't. And if you want to plan to use it, that's a problem. So That's 8 millimeter for most of those. The maximum needle is a size 50 Magnum is the max needle you can put on them. They're made of aluminum alloy, obviously, and they're powder coated, or not powder coated, they're painted and whatnot, so that they have a shiny look, a luster about them. And they come in various colors, as you can see. I notice that the black models tend to be the ones that sell out the fastest, then the bluer ones, and then you're often left with odd colors like lime green, where they still have lots of them. So if you're looking for a specific color, pay attention because they go fast. About all I can tell you about them. They're your average tattoo gun, rotary style, and I think for a beginner, rather than start out with the coil machines, which some people will tell you, I mean, myself, I always put it down to, why learn to ski if you're just going to snowboard, right? So there's no sense in it to me learning to ski and then starting all over again to learn to snowboard. So if you're going to start, you might as well start with the one that you plan to use in the end, and then that's the one you know, right? Yeah, if you have any questions or that, there's not a whole lot to this video, so I knew it was going to be pretty quick. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Leave your opinions. Tell me what you think of them, differences in prices of machines and all that kind of stuff. If you notice a difference between the expensive ones and the cheap ones, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helped me out, keep the channel going and whatnot. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.